CBT never worked for autistic me. So, look, we know masking doesn't work, or fear, or pain. We're dying from them already. That's all the words we need. You're listening to AutisticAF Out Loud. One voice, raw, real, fiercely neurodivergent. Since 1953, Season 5, Episode 6. Doc, you got us all wrong. Part 2. CBT never worked for autistic me. Abelist agendas. Bad research subjects. Bad data. Bad therapy. There's the whole story. An experimental multi-part series, around 10 minutes each, because some autistic listeners tell me they like to binge in small bites. Others say they listen in the car, so you can also download the complete series as one file. Just one autistic elder's truth. I'm Johnny Profane. Content note: trauma discussion, medical system critique, institutional discrimination, psychiatric hospitalizations, systemic oppression. Plus, the experiences and opinions of one autistic voice in my 70s. I've been struggling with an article on CBT and autism for years. Sigh, spoons. A lot of reading, a lot of thinking, to come to my opinion, my thesis, that any therapy based on purely cognitive techniques, even if pros throw on some behavioral rubber band snapping special sauce on the side, it's inherently ableist, attacking the very way our autistic brains are wired, demanding abilities many neurodivergents just weren't born with. Here's a snapshot, a quick personal story from when autistic as fuck me turned for help. I'm sorry. What did you just say? I said, he looked nervous. I said, I always recommend aversive therapy for my autistic kids, my clients. Me, in a dead cold voice, snapping a rubber band. Yes? He seemed torn. Was I going to get positive reinforcement or that weird, hostile defensiveness professionals get when you ask questions? Into that hesitant silence, I say, snap it hard, hard as they can, against their wrist. Yes, the sting is important. Now he's eager to share. When they repeat the aversive stimulus, they... Again, I interrupt with my ashen Clint Eastwood voice, during a meltdown. Well, actually, just before. He's beaming, proud. They learn to snap the band at the earliest hint they'll lose control. It's operant conditioning. A kid having a meltdown on aisle 3, likely overwhelmed by sensory overload. Let's just add a little sharp pain and see what happens. As if by giving it some science-y name, it's not self-inflicted torture. Brief CBT background. Cognitive behavioral therapy emerged in the 60s, a kind of forced marriage between Beck's cognitive therapy, focused on internal thoughts, and Skinner's behavioral therapy, focused on observable behavior. Both developed studying neurotypical minds. Change your thoughts, change your feelings, change your behavior, change your life. Simple, right? Unless your brain doesn't work that way. Sometimes research ain't. How could cognitive behavioral therapy not be inappropriate for autistics? Research problem number 1. It's based on studying neurotypical populations, but we autistics think differently by definition. Problem number 2. For the foundational studies, CBT researchers used white university student subjects, for the most part. They're easy and cheap to find, but maybe 3% are autistic? Maybe. All with decent IQs and functioning student skills, even the few autistic subjects. And problem number 3 is a doozy. Many autistics survive by people-pleasing. Kids and grown-ups. We're likely to mask our true experiences to appear better or please therapists. Plus, we may have trouble perceiving and communicating our own experience. Self-reported data might not reflect our reality. Then there's one that's rarely discussed. Problem number 4. The waitlist relief effect. Most neurodivergent folks endure months or years waiting for therapy, suffering intensely. When we finally get accepted into therapy, there is overwhelming relief, elevating our mood and behavior, which distorts everything a therapist or researcher will hear. We may dial up our masking because we're scared shitless we'll lose this lifeline. Meanwhile, researchers publish, buff their nails, and attribute any self-reported improvement as proof their technique works. The cognitive part, a stopper. Substitute executive functioning for cognitive, as in the thing they say is largely missing from my autistic forebrain. The entire technique? One cognitive process after another. First you must notice, then you must reflect, then decide, then review, then judge context, then review, finally act, then regret. Let that sink in. All of cognitive therapy is about monitoring individual thoughts for cognitive errors, then replacing them with correct ones. Hundreds of decisions, distinctions, social cue processings, executive functioning, a process that never became automatic for me, as clinician after clinician cheerfully reassured me it would. Many autistic individuals have memory differences, working memory differences that make it nearly impossible to hold the kind of information cognitive work requires, much less manipulated on the fly. Now, about behavior. The behavioral part of CBT, the Skinnerian special sauce, rewards, and punishments for the action you choose, hoping you'll build automatic, correct responses. Basically rat training. If you shock me enough times, sure, I won't go through that door, and I will struggle mightily to only have an internal stroke rather than an external meltdown. But the researcher or teacher gets to check the box cured because we're no longer a nuisance to them. And we continue to quietly die, invisibly, politely, inside, too often, outside. That kind of aversion to fear or pain, true for every living thing at an evolutionary level above a paramecium, like rats or kids, 'cause fear works, pain works, just not the way they think. These practical implementation failures should sound pretty familiar to autistic folks, keenly aware of the nightmare effort autistic masking demands around straight society. So look, we know masking doesn't work, or fear, or pain. We're dying from them already. That's all the words we need. Add to this our difficulty forming new habits, maintaining routines, and processing cognitive information differently. Under stress, which therapy itself can induce, we often revert to previous behaviors. Any improvements from techniques? Not bloody likely. They're ingrained as permanent muscle memory, requiring frequent refresher sessions to maintain the illusion of change and progress. As one commenter wrote, To me, CBT has always felt inherently surface level. It's like closing a few tabs on your browser as opposed to doing a factory reset. Biggest problem of all? Neurodivergent diversity. Autistic, ADHD, AUDHD, dyslexic, dyspraxic, all different cognitive profiles. Sure, we're all different from the typical population, but an autistic who also experiences ADHD thinks and acts differently than a dyslexic one, at least in my trained observation. I was a mental health social worker for 10 years. Despite these complexities, maybe because it is complex, it seems to me that CBT treats us all as if we're standard model humans with a few bugs to fix. We require generational studies of representative populations to sort this spaghetti pile out before we should be recommending these techniques on living humans, adults, and especially kids. ABA and its relatives, an even deeper hole. Applied Behavioral Analysis, ABA, deserves special mention. It's the behavioral therapy most parents hear about in grammar schools. What most don't know? ABA shares roots with debunked, torturous gay conversion therapy, outlawed in many states. Both were developed by O. Ivor Lovaas in the 60s. Both aim to eliminate undesirable behaviors using aversive techniques, from snapping rubber bands in the nice clinics to cattle prods in the not-so-nice facilities, punishing and suppressing behaviors that are natural to our nervous systems, behaviors that protect us from a society not built for us. ABA may have volumes of data, but it's all shaped by behaviors researchers and parents want, not what autistic children or adults need. The outcomes measured? Eye contact, sitting still, verbal responses, not internal autistic well-being. It's important to understand one simple point. Data is not science. How you frame your research or experiment, how you gather your data, how you choose how many subjects and whom, when you choose to gather data, how you interpret your data, how you present your data. All these impact its validity and value. ABA and all its camouflaged cousins fall down on this core scientific truth. Bottom line, when former ABA children grow up, many report trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, self-harm. Conclusion. Fuck ABA. Fuck CBT. Everybody in the therapeutic industrial complex, from clinic receptionist to billionaire pharmaceutical CEO, makes money from your kid's pain, caused by treatments that don't address neurodivergent needs. As far as I, and better known neurodiversity-affirming authorities, can tell. Strong words? You betcha. Because minds and lives are at stake. We need therapies that work with our neurology, not against it, that build on our strengths instead of calling us coolly, professionally, pathologizing names. In Part 3, we'll really bring this all home, how labeling our intrinsic differences as disease is about as anti-therapeutic as you can get. We'll explore PDA, not every difference is a disease, and really raise a ruckus. For your deeper diving pleasure, the transcript contains references and footnotes for most points I raise, from a variety of views. Hey, don't forget, you can download Part 1, Autistic Resilience, or download both parts as one file. More coming in this series, exploring how neurodivergent folks can build sustainable, authentic lives with or without professional intervention, with at least 2 more parts coming. AutisticAF Out Loud podcast is supported solely by listeners like you. If you have a friend or family member touched by neurodiversity, why not turn them on to us with a quick email? By the way, we believe no one should have to pay to be autistic. Many neurodivergent people can't afford subscription content. Your Ko-fi tip of any amount helps keep this resource free for them. Or join our paid subscriber community at johnnyprofanenap.substack.com for ongoing support. I put both links in the description.